Hey everybody, thanks for joining us for the second showing today of the Texas Weekly Sky Update. Essentially, what we're going to be doing with this show is we're going to be giving you a tour of this week's sky, showing where you can find different objects in the sky, different celestial objects, different constellations, things like that, and where to look for them. We're going to be doing this with a software called Stellarium. This is a free software you can download on your own and actually play with it yourself. We'll be posting a link to that a little bit shortly down below in the live feed comments. So be sure to look for that, and you can kind of even follow along with us maybe as we continue on in the series a little bit later on. Plan is currently we're going to be doing this show 2 times on Saturdays, one at 2 p.m., which is going to be geared a little bit more towards kids, and then one at 7 p.m., which is going to be geared towards all space lovers, so general audience stuff. Really, the weekly Sky Talk portions of these are always going to be the part that we lead with. But after that, we're going to do kind of a Q&A session. So if you have any sort of questions or anything like that, again, make sure and post that in the comments below the live feed here. Our moderator will actually ask those to our presenter a little bit later on. So we've got our students that have been working on this show really hard for us. Today I've got Chrissy with me, and we've also got Oliver. We'll introduce you to them a little bit later on, but I do want to go over a few other things that we'll be doing in these presentations. And if y'all have suggestions of some things that y'all want to see, we're really open to that. You know, I was thinking, you know, maybe instead of streaming a show afterwards of these things, which is kind of the last portions of these things, for instance, I will be streaming kind of a show for all space lovers again after we're done here. But if you have anything else, any other suggestions of things you'd like to see, like an Ask an Astronomer session, or maybe like some astronomy trivia that we can kind of do interactively, these are some other things that we're kind of thinking about doing with this stream as well. So a few other notes here. The cost of this program is nothing. It's certainly free to you. We're bringing it to you as a service. However, we are taking donations, and we have just launched a new campaign for fundraising. Just due to the pandemic, just like anybody else, we've certainly been affected by it. The Rafus Urban Astronomy Center and also Sky Theater are still currently closed, so we have no way to generate any revenue currently. So if you do have it, we'd really appreciate it if you could give $1 or maybe even $5 to the Sky Theater Fund. We'll post a link to that down below the live feed too. We'd really appreciate it, help a lot. If there are any of you guys that are feeling especially generous, our director, Ron Delio, has an exciting offer where he's going to say that the very first 25 donations of $150 or more, those donors will receive a meteorite from his personal collection, along with a certificate of authenticity. So that's pretty nice there too. If you can't donate, you know, just like us on Facebook, comment with us, maybe share our posts, and help raise awareness for us, because that'll help a lot too. But anyway, we really appreciate you guys all stopping by. We really hope you enjoy this series. I'm going to go ahead and hand everything over to Chrissy now, and she's going to start your sky update for this week. So that's to you, Chrissy.
Okay, hey guys. Thank you for that, Ryan. As he mentioned, I'm just going to do a star talk, kind of give you an update about what's going on this week, take you through some constellations that you can see. Everything that I'm going to show you, all of the constellations and the stars, are things that you can see from the Denton sky or just outside of Denton. But then I also have Oliver with us. So Oliver, if you want to say something, I'll go ahead and start setting up Stellarium.
How's it going, everybody? My name is Oliver. I'm going to be kind of in the background here as the moderator. So I will be the one taking anyone's questions if they have them, or else directing them to our presenter when it's time. I'm a computer science student here at UNT, proud to be part of the Sky Theater member. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy our my first show. So I'll go ahead and give it back to Chrissy.
Okay, thank you. All right, so let me go ahead and, all right. All right, so I have pulled up Stellarium, and as mentioned, this is the program that we're going to be using just to simulate the night sky, since unfortunately we can't be at the Sky Theater now. But Stellarium is a free program, and Oliver, our moderator, is going to drop the link to that in the comments. So if it looks like something you want to do and you want to play around with, like I said, it's free. You can just download it and play around with it. All right. So once if you do decide to download Stellarium, one of the first things that you're going to want to do is go over here to this left bar and go to the location window and make sure that you're in the correct location. So you can choose get location from network, or you can just type it in. Mine is already set to Denton, as you see down here, but if it's not, you can just go ahead and do that right here. And then the other thing is you're going to want to go to the date and time window. And so here we have May 30th, that's today. And then it is in military time, so just be careful of that. If you're looking for like 10 p.m., if you go to 10, like 10 right here, it's going to be 10 a.m. and not 10 p.m. So 10 is going to be 22. So I'll just do a little after 10 right here. So the first thing that you're going to want to do if you go outside, if you want to, is you're always going to want to start by orienting yourself. Because if you've ever been outside, you've probably noticed that there aren't these giant red letters in the sky. Our North Star Polaris. And there's a couple easy ways to find Polaris, but one of the easiest is by using this right here. So this is the Big Dipper, and let me go ahead and bring up the constellation line. So the Big Dipper is one of the easiest constellations to find. It's not actually a constellation, it's an asterism, which just means a recognizable group of stars. But it's part of the constellation Ursa Major, which is all of this right here. But like I said, the Big Dipper is the most recognizable part of that, so it's the easiest part to find. But if we go across from the handle here, we'll see these two stars, and these are our pointer stars, and they're going to bring us down right here to Polaris. And if you'll notice on the left side of the screen, there's like all this information. A lot of this, I don't even know what it means. So if you want to kind of get rid of that, you can go to the configuration window on the left here. And then under information, I just hit none. And then I just bring up the few things that I feel like I'm going to need. So let's just bring up a couple things here. There we go. And that kind of like declutters a little over here. So as I mentioned, this is Polaris, our North Star, and it's part of the Little Dipper, which, like the Big Dipper, isn't actually a constellation, but it's part of the constellation Ursa Minor. So we have Ursa Major and Ursa Minor, which mean Big Bear and Little Bear in Latin. And then if the Big Dipper is not up, there's another constellation, and it's just below here. Let me get rid of the ground. So this is Cassiopeia. And it just looks like a big W or an M in the sky. So if the Big Dipper is down here or over here, we can also use Cassiopeia. It just kind of opens up to Polaris right there. But anyway, so Polaris isn't the biggest or the brightest star, but it's really important because of where it is. So if you were to go out from Earth and you followed Earth's North Pole, it would bring you straight up to Polaris. So it's right above our North Pole. And so that means that it's always in the same place if you're in the Northern Hemisphere. Day or night, it's in the same place. So if I bring up this date and time window, I'll go forward a couple hours and you'll notice that it seems like the sky is moving around Polaris. And so that's because of its location. So you'll see everything's kind of moving around it. So let me go back in time so we're not lost here. Unless you're planning to be up at like 3 a.m. So once we find Polaris, then we know that that's north. And once we know where north is, then we can find our other directions. So I think most of the interesting stuff is going to be towards the southern part of the sky. But we'll use the north to find the south, if that makes sense. So we'll start with our Big Dipper right here. And we're going to do a little star hopping. So we're going to use, we were using these pointer stars before, but now we're going to use the handle, I guess. And we're going to arc to Arcturus. So it's going to be this star right here. And I'm actually going to flip the sky around, and hopefully this isn't too confusing. But if the Big Dipper is north, it's going to be kind of like almost right above us since we're stretching out a little bit. So here's the Big Dipper here. So like I said, arc to Arcturus. and then we're going to make a spike like this, and we're going to spike down to Spica. And if you'll notice, when I clicked on Spica, when the words over here came up, they're kind of like bluish in tint, and that's because Spica is a blue star. So it's pretty cool that Stellarium helps you identify how hot the stars are using that. So Spica is actually a double star, and it's pretty far away. It's about 250 light years away. Arcturus is a little closer, relatively speaking. It's only about 36 light years away. So, you know, in astronomical terms, it's pretty close. But from Spica, we're going to leap over to Leo. Really, we're leaping over to Regulus, but it's in the constellation of Leo. Leo is super easy to identify because you can just look for this backwards question mark right here. So if you're getting kind of lost in the star hopping, the Big Dipper is super easy to find, and then also Leo, and that would help you find these other constellations as well. So Regulus is actually a quadruple star system. So there's Regulus A and its companion, and then there's Regulus B and C. So Regulus A and its companion are orbiting each other really fast. So they have a common center of mass, and then they're orbiting that common center every 40 days. And then Regulus A, it's rotating every 16 hours. And just for comparison, our sun takes 27 days to rotate. So 16 hours versus 27 days is really, really fast. And it's because of that fast rotation, it's shaped more like a football. And if it were to go any faster, it would literally tear itself apart. So it'd be pretty cool. But let me zoom in here because there's something interesting next to Regulus. So here we have this Regulus dwarf galaxy. And the Regulus dwarf galaxy, there's not like a ton of information that I was able to find on it. And that's just because it's, if you'll notice here, the magnitude is 10. And when we're talking about magnitude, it's kind of like golf, like the lower the better. So, you know, when we click on Regulus here, it has a magnitude of 1.35. So it's going to be a lot brighter than this galaxy. Anything above a 6, we can't really see with our naked eye, but we could see with a telescope. But I just thought I'd point it out because Stellarium has this cool feature where it'll show you deep sky objects like galaxies, clusters, things like that. So you can explore those and look through and find some really cool stuff. And these are all real pictures, so it's pretty cool. But since we're talking about galaxies, I'm going to go back over to the north. And I'm going to show you guys a galaxy that you can see. So it's not up right now. And if you'll notice, there's like this huge path right here. So this is actually a comet, the Atlas comet, and it has disintegrated. And as you notice, you know, it's below the ground, so we can't even see it right now. But it's taking up a lot of space. So this constellation right here is Andromeda, and then right above this arm right here is the Andromeda Galaxy. So the Andromeda Galaxy is our closest galaxy, and it's a lot brighter than the Regulus dwarf galaxy. I have actually been able to see it with my naked eye, so since it's the closest one to us, it's definitely a lot easier to see. But it's still pretty far. It's about, but like our galaxy, it's a large spiral galaxy. And in about 4 billion years, our galaxies are going to collide. So the Milky Way and Andromeda are going to collide. And the new galaxy is going to be Milkdromeda. So be looking forward to that. So let me bring the ground back up. And if you want to get rid of the ground, down here at the bottom, there is a button that says ground. So you can get rid of that. And then that's where the constellation lines and the labels and all of that are. And then next to ground, it says G. So if you just hit the key G, that's also going to get rid of the ground. Let's go back to the southern sky. So right here, behind the trees, let me get rid of the trees. We have this guy, Gemini. And Gemini means zodiacal constellations, and I'll explain what that means in a minute. Immortal, and his stated, and so he buried, so they were put up in the stars together, and that's why they're like holding hands. Yeah. But let me go ahead over here under sky and viewing options. Under markings, I'm just going to go ahead and bring up the ecliptic. All right, so when I was talking about zodiacal constellations, it just means the constellations that lie on this line, and the ecliptic is the path of the sun. So it's also the path that the moon and the other planets follow as well. So we have Cancer the Crab over here, and then Leo, as mentioned before. And then we also have Virgo, which we were talking about. And then over here, we have another of, I would say, like one of the most interesting constellations, which is going to be Scorpius. So Scorpius does lie on this line as well. So it's also one of the zodiacal constellations. But Scorpius is kind of tied to another constellation, Orion, which is a winter constellation. If you were to go outside, like maybe an hour or two later, he's going to be higher up in the sky, because right here you can see he's kind of cut off from the ground just a little bit. But this tail is like the easiest part to see. So especially later in the summer, he's going to be really easy to find. And then also because of this star, he's really easy to find. But as I was mentioning with Orion, Orion was in Greek mythology, he was a really good hunter, and he claimed that he was a better hunter than Artemis, who was the hunter goddess. So Artemis's twin brother Apollo sent this scorpion to destroy him, and their battle was like super epic, and it raged on for weeks, and it was just destroying cities because they were so evenly matched. So with no end in sight, Zeus put Scorpius and Orion on opposite sides of the sky so that their battle would continue forever. So when Scorpius is rising, Orion is setting, and then vice versa. But if we go over here to sky and viewing options again, there's a tab star lore, and under here there's like a ton of different civilizations that you can click on. These different cultures will have all different constellations. So I've been kind of flipping through them myself, but one of the things that I've found interesting is like how many of them are similar and then how many of them are different. Like we were just looking at Gemini, and I found that a ton of cultures have also seen twins. So I thought that's really cool. But even when they see similar things like twins, a lot of times they'll have different stories behind them. So it's interesting, like if you're into that kind of thing, to look through and see that. Because it is part of history. I think it's interesting. But then Antares here, which I was kind of mentioning earlier, as you'll notice, is super close to this line. And as I mentioned, this is the line that the planets follow as well. So a lot of times Mars will be on this line. And it used to get really close to Antares. And because Antares has kind of a reddish color, astronomers often got them confused. And so the Roman name for Mars is Ares. And so they named it Antares or Antares, which just means not Mars. So super creative. But as I was mentioning with the other cultures, sorry to backtrack a little bit, but in Hawaiian and Polynesian culture, Scorpius was known as the demigod Maui's fishhook. And so if you've ever seen the movie Moana, there's a part where she gets lost at sea and she's following the fishhook in the sky to get home. So she's actually following a Scorpius. So I just thought that was a super cute little, you know, like shout out in the movie to the actual culture. Let me see. So unfortunately, Jupiter and Saturn, as you can see, are going to be under the ground right now. So they're below the horizon. Let me see. Let me go ahead in time and see when they're going to be up. So yeah, it's not going to be until pretty late at night, about 1:30 in the morning. But in a couple weeks, they'll definitely be up higher earlier at night. So you'll be able to see them earlier, pretty soon after the sun sets. And Jupiter and Saturn are pretty easy. Jupiter, at least, is really easy to see, and you can actually even see its moons too if you have a decent telescope. All right. Well, that's pretty much all I have for you guys. I just wanted to mention a few of these constellations, the easiest ones to point out. And then also we have the moon is super bright up here. But yeah. So we're gonna go ahead and show the video. Actually, Oliver, do I have any questions?
Yeah, we actually have one question from Alina Goldsmith on Facebook. I hope I pronounced that right. The question is, Aloha, can I see the same constellations from Hawaii?
Oh, yeah. Well, let's see. Let me just go ahead and change the location. Where in Hawaii should I do? I'll just type.
Let me reply to
Hawaii
her
into
saying
the
her question is being answered right now.
Okay. Okay, let's do Honolulu. Okay, so okay, let me go ahead and share my screen again.
Alina says Honoka'a.
Oh.
So Honoka'a
Okay,
apostrophe A, if possible.
Can you spell that?
Honoka apostrophe A.
Okay, so I'm not seeing it. But I think Honolulu is going to be close enough, since Hawaii is pretty small.
I'll chime in for just a sec there. All it's going to matter is the latitude, and the latitudes between those two places are not going to be very different. So
yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, so it's going to look pretty much the same, but actually Scorpius is going to be a little higher up in the sky. So it's cool. Let me go over to the north. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, Polaris is just going to be a little lower in the sky, but you can still use the same constellations. You can still see the Big Dipper here. So it's not going to change that much, just a little bit. Were there any other questions?
Alina did say it's not dark yet though, and I basically just responded saying that's the beauty of Stellarium, is that we can change the sky and atmosphere.
Yeah.
Not seeing any other questions though. We can give it some time, see if anyone else wants to maybe post something.
Okay, well,
Alina says awesome, thanks.
Oh, okay. I can go ahead and start the movie, and then if anyone has any questions, we can do them after